Hi, I'm Liz Larson.
And I'm Bill McKenna. We're the hosts of the New Life Perspectives radio show.
We're also the creators of the Cognomovement system, where we help you rewire your nervous system so you can rewire your reality.
Join us each week for great conversations, amazing guests, and cutting-edge information on health, consciousness, and the keys to transformation.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Bill, we have a really exciting guest this week, don't we?
Oh my gosh. This, not only is she a great friend of both of ours, but I tell you what, you want an interesting listen. This is it. Stay tuned. You buckle your seatbelt. This is so mind-blowing that we get to have this time with Cynthia Sue Larson. Many of you already know her. Liz, give everybody an overview.
Okay, I'm going to make this quick because we have so much to talk about. She's been on the show lots of times. If you guys haven't seen those episodes, please go back and watch. Cynthia is fascinating. But Cynthia is a Berkeley-trained physicist, for one. She is a prolific author. You may have seen one of her most popular books is Reality Shifting. Did I get that right, Cynthia?
Reality Shifts?
Reality Shifts. I never get it right. And she's one of the founding members of the International Mandela Effect Conference, which also is a big event that is happening in Nashville in November as well. So Cynthia, so many more things that I'd have to go on for the whole interview. But let's just say, welcome, Cynthia.
Oh, thank you, Liz. Thank you, Bill. I love talking with you guys. We can go so deep and you really get the implications of the material we're talking about. So I appreciate that. Plus, you're just wonderful people. So thank you for being who you are.
Oh, thank you. I mean, our conversations are so much fun. You guys, we just got to talk to Cynthia for an hour off camera, and I'm telling you, you wish you were there. But today we have something really important and really, really exciting, I think, for the planet. Cynthia just finished a new book. It's called The Mandela Effect and Its Society. The Mandela Effect and Its Society. Awakening from Me to We. And I'll show it. If you're seeing us on TV or on YouTube, you'll see it's a beautiful, beautiful book available on Amazon. And it has everything to do with the Mandela Effect. And I saw Cynthia on another interview. She was saying how it's like a textbook, but a fun textbook. And she's 100% right. This book is like my favorite kind of book ever. You could actually thumb through it and just read a piece. And there's so much information in that piece that you could go thinking about it for days. It's broken down into terms, so you can understand a lot of the things. It's broken down into stories. And I often like to read a book like this backwards. And it's so clearly defined, the pieces, that you can absolutely do that. So personally, I'm having a great time with this book. But my first question for you is, Cynthia, why this book and why right now? What is important about it for this time?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for just going right to the key question there. You did it. It's super important for this time because we're in a pivotal moment of what some people have referred to as hyper novelty, where things like the beliefs we used to have are crumbling. Some of the foundational systems seem to be collapsing. People are commenting. We were saying even before we started talking here on recording, even regular people who've never talked about the Mandela effect or anything like this are saying stuff like, I think I'm in a different reality. So it's becoming obvious to everybody that we literally are witnessing perhaps what you might call multiple simultaneous realities. Some people would refer to it as timeline jumping. I've got a book, Quantum Jumps, about talking about making that a conscious choice. So this Mandela effect now, the subtitle, Awakening from Me to We, is kind of a double entendre. The ME is the Mandela effect, of course, but it's also that isolated feeling of it's just something happening only to me. just only one person noticing a change in reality. But now we're collectively noticing these things, and quite a few of them can be very positive. So this can be an awakening process together. As collaboratively we start recognizing maybe we have everything to do with the physical experience that we enjoy when we're alive and in the world.
So let's share with everybody who doesn't know, what is a Mandela effect? And I'll ask Bill, give your favorite example, and it'll tell everybody what it is right away. What's your favorite example, Bill?
Oh, mind meld with you. I was just like, this is a Mandela effect example, which blew my mind right before I knew about Mandela effects. I was watching something. I don't know if it was an ad or a video, but it said, "Build it and he will come." And there's, the Field of Dreams. This is the movie in the United States,
Yeah.
a very common movie. And I was like, build it and he will come. What type of alternate universe are you in? It's not build it and he will come. I started asking all my friends. I was like, I want you to complete this sentence from the Field of Dreams. Build it and
they will come.
They will come, right? Because that's the movie. All the people come out of the cornfield. They come out of the cornfield. Nobody is like just the one guy. Anyway, everybody knows it's not that way. But there was, post that, it was like all of a sudden, becoming aware of all of these other timeline shifts or alternate reality. This Mandela effect is very, very real. And it's all around us now with the most absolutely ridiculous examples.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Liz.
I was just going to say there's one that is driving me insane. And I think I've forgotten to say it to you, Cynthia. But my whole life, there was a phrase, all of a sudden, this or that happened. And now it's all of the sudden. All of the sudden, you hear it on TV, you hear it. My daughter even said that. I said, the phrase is all of a sudden. She said, no, it's not. It's all of the sudden. Since when? So, okay, Cynthia, tell everybody and us too, what is it really? What really is a Mandela effect?
Well, if you look at the definition of it online, people often go to Wikipedia. And if you do that, then you'll see something that I don't agree with. You'll see unless they improve it. It hasn't yet improved. How good can it get, right? But so far, it still says mass collective misremembering or something to that effect.
Oh.
But they're jumping to an assumption that they've already attributed a cause to the whole phenomenon as they're describing it. Now, where do we ever do that in a scientific field? That's not a good practice at all. It doesn't make any sense to me. So when we look at what's really happening, we're seeing what I would call a misaligned memory with historical fact. So we don't just jump to the assumption that it must be me and it must be all of us collectively sharing an exactly the same identical, because I share that with you, Liz, that all of a sudden, that's what it used to be. And I don't know when that one changed. I think it snuck in there maybe 10 years ago or so for me, but maybe for you it was sooner, and that can happen. And I agree with you too, Bill, about the Field of Dreams and the baseball field. Right now it's just a cornfield or whatever, but now it can be, build it and they will come. It's not a success if one person shows up and you've gone to all the trouble to build a baseball, with the stands and the field and everything. No, it's better be they. So when we see these signs and the evidence that we're collectively remembering something identically, why would that be happening? Why would I share this same exact memory when it could be so many other things? Why that? And there's so many other examples of it. So that's something I do in the book, is look at some of the popular theories as to what is going on. If we can rule out, and we should take a look at the fact, maybe don't rule it out prematurely, but take a look first. Why does it not make sense that we are collectively misremembering? And there are lots of reasons that I would say, obviously, that's not it, because why would we be remembering things exactly the same?
So my next question for you is, Cynthia, with this book at this time, what do you really want people to know? I mean, this book is comprehensive. There's so many things to know. But what was your reason? What was important to you about it? And what do you want people to take away?
Oh, thank you. That's such a good question. It comes back to that first question. It's at this time with hyper novelty and things look like they are falling apart. It can feel scary. It can feel like there's nothing that I can do about it or nothing we can do about it. If you're looking at a huge collapse of the weather system or the environment or politics or you name it, anything and everything, it can all seem out of control and too big and too insurmountable. The reason for this book at this time is to indicate humanity has been given a toolkit at this time to step into our creative powers and co-creative powers with one another in the form of consciousness exerting influence on the physical reality. And I know this is what you guys do and what you are all about with Cognomovement. So I love talking with you guys about it. You get it. But for a lot of people who don't know such things are possible, that you can literally jump to another timeline. The first way they're seeing it is with the Mandela effect. And they're noticing like, oh my gosh, I'm affected too. I also remember the Berenstain Bears, not the Berenstain Bears. And, all these other things that are changing. The Kit Kat had a little hyphen in it, I remember that. And just all these things that might seem trivial at first, but when you take them collectively, the heart has moved to the center of the chest. That's amazing. The kidneys have moved upward to the relative protection under the rib cage. Geography is changing. Everything's changing. So if all those things can change, and we're seeing that they are, those of us who experience the Mandela effect and are open-minded enough to recognize this is the way quantum physics works. Well, guess what? Thank goodness, because now when we're facing this hyper novelty situation in the cosmos, when so many things are in flux, changing, there's so much energy, it almost seems like anything possible is happening and everything seems to be happening, then this can then provide us with the way and means to stay focused on how good can it get, golden age, Shambhala future for all of us. And to me, it's an indicator that this time has come and that we've got the toolkit, we're ready to go. Let's start practicing. Let's play with this.
I know Bill had a question about quantum physics. Didn't you, Bill, from the book?
Oh gosh, here's for everybody, you've got to go out and buy this book right now. And I'll tell you what, she's got it all broken down for us in terms of the quantum phenomenon and then how it relates to the Mandela effect. So, for example, this whole list, quantum entanglement, quantum coherence, quantum teleportation, quantum tunneling. There are so many different aspects to this Mandela effect, and they're based in these unbelievable, real quantum effects that we know at from quantum physics that it's real. Information being basically shared by two particles, and they're influencing each other anywhere in time and space. So many other things like this quantum teleportation. The Chinese have actually accomplished that in between satellites and the ground now. It's not like something like sci-fi. The science is known theoretically. Now it's actually happening. But I think more importantly is that these effects are really showing up all over the place. And I think almost everybody can relate to, if you listen to the radio and you're out there and all of a sudden the song changed. It's like, what? It's so disturbing for me. I called Liz immediately. I was so upset. I think I called you too, Cynthia. And I was like, damn it. It was Christmas time and it was, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. And if you really, everybody probably knows the end of that song. If you really hold me tight,
right.
Since when is it grabbing me? That is grabbing me. No, you never grab. There is no grabbing. There's no grabbing. That is not the whole thing. But anyway, it was unbelievable. But everybody that's listening to this can really relate to all these little songs that have been going on. You're like, wait a second, that's not how I remember it.
Right.
So, is there, I have kind of the random question here. It's not too random, but the CERN collider. There'd been a lot of talk of the CERN collider and this creating some of these Mandela effects. What do you think? Is that not a thing?
Let's save that till we come back from our break. So everybody, let's hear from our good sponsors. I'll keep you on a cliffhanger. When we come back, we hear Cynthia's answer about CERN. Okay, everybody, we're back with Cynthia Sue Larson. We're talking about her new book. And the question was, what does CERN have to do with all of this, Cynthia?
Well, that's a great question. And it is one of the top possibilities as having something to do with this increase in people observing the Mandela effect. And long story short, I'd say it's possible in the sense that with the Large Hadron Collider, there's a great deal of energy being put into increasing the velocity, the speed of these little particles, and then smashing them at high speeds together to see what could happen. They were searching for the God particle is what they called it. And that was an interesting hunt to find, something that's so massive that it was influencing these other particles. But in the process of gearing up for it, so much money, so much energy is put into this one collider that's just spinning these particles super, super fast. So from that standpoint, is it possible that it has something to do with the Mandela effect? I'd say it's possible, but then I would expect that if they're firing it up, we'd expect to see a huge increase in Mandela effects. And I haven't really seen that with the firing up of these different accelerators around the world. It's not the only accelerator. We've got lots of particle accelerators everywhere in the Western world. The United States has them and other countries as well. So it's possible that there's some impact, but I guess I'm saying that probably it's not the only source of the energy required to start seeing Mandela effects happening on a massive scale.
So we do see a lot of us are experiencing a whole lot of what feels like reality shifting. And you never know, actually, from a personal experience, whether or not everybody else is seeing what you're seeing. So even in things like government and politics, things that are happening now, my husband and I look at each other and say, you can't do that. Like, that's illegal, right? Like, that's not possible. And, we talk about other things we've seen and heard, and we know that that should not be the case, laws and stuff like that. So my question is then, what's the difference between a reality shift, something you experience personally, where all of a sudden reality seems very different, and the Mandela effect?
Yeah, there's, essentially no big difference. A personal Mandela effect is pretty equivalent to what I'd call a reality shift. And it's also, as I describe in the book, Mary Rose Barrington, about 100 years ago, was tracking these, what she called just one of those things. So that's another phrase, JOT, J-O-T-T, or reality shift, which was, I think, first mentioned by PMH Atwater in her book, Future Memory. And then I picked it up because it seemed like a very descriptive term to me. And now Mandela effect. But a personal Mandela effect would be something that an individual observes, but probably nobody else noticed what changed on their bathroom fixture or on a picture in their living room wall, because they're the only ones in that house. Maybe another person might notice it, but it's not going to be a worldwide recognizable Mandela effect. And so Mandela effects, the term, is usually a large group of people. And that's where it starts getting interesting, that such a large group of people would notice Nelson Mandela did not die in 1987, like a lot of us remember he did. And some of us remember others who might have died too, like Jane Goodall, or I mentioned in my book, Reality Shifts, Larry Hagman had passed away. And I think, Bill, you remember Larry Hagman too, that he died and then he was alive again. And
yeah.
yeah. baffling when it happens, and that's not misremembering, it's not confusion. I know it wasn't for me, and that, that was very interesting. So, but we don't call it the Hagman effect for whatever reason. There's Bill, there's me, and maybe a few others, but people generally didn't really catch on to that particular situation, where they notice it now. And Dr. Ruth, for example, is creating quite a buzz. She just passed away again for some people in 2024. Some people remember she died previously. So, but we call it the Mandela effect because of the Nelson Mandela situation, where he was alive again, most puzzlingly and positively to a lot of people. And so that's where the term came from.
Jane Goodall was the big one for me.
Yes.
When I heard she was alive pretty recently, I could not have been more shocked. I thought she died a long time ago. I remember it. I remember the news coverage. I remember the great loss for biology and this study. Like you do too, Bill. You remember that as well?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I saw her and Clint Eastwood in Monterey, California, sitting down for a chat only a few weeks ago.
Oh my God.
I was like, huh, well, that's very nice, isn't that? Good to see her again.
So amazing, so amazing. Yeah, for me, I remember she passed away shortly after Diane Fossey. So some people would say like, oh, you guys, you're all obviously confusing Jane Goodall with another primate researcher. Well, I know I'm not, because I remember first Diane Fossey was murdered, and that was shocking enough. But within like a month or two, that's how Jane Goodall had passed away. I remember she was also murdered. And I thought that was just outrage on my part. Like, no, like that can't be, this can't be. But it's not like she came back to life right away. For me, it was years and years, maybe decades went by, and then she popped up as if she'd never been gone.
Yeah.
And I got to see her give a talk in Berkeley, California, a number of years ago. I was quite glad to see she's alive.
That's what it was like for me too. It was relatively recently. I'm thinking, what? And you know what's interesting? These things started to happen to me from when I was a kid. And I just thought it was me. I thought I was flaky and that I just wasn't remembering things right. I thought there just is something wrong in my mind, that things keep shifting and moving. And I've shared this before, that when I read your book, Reality Shifts, and some of the others a long time ago, it really made me feel more sane. It helped me understand what was happening. And then I had an aunt who also explained some things like missing jewelry and things like that. Like, oh, it just has shifted into another reality. I'm like, okay, thank goodness this is a thing and not just a weirdness on my part. Then it became fun. Now it's fun. Sometimes it's not so fun, but a lot of times it's fun. Here's my question. It makes me think about something I saw you say on another interview. You were talking to your friend on biased and on the unbiased and on the fence. And you were talking about the Myers-Briggs personality test, and how people who strongly experience Mandela effect or reality shifting sort of fit into a couple of personality types. So is this really about who we are?
Well, the people that predominantly experience it are coming from a very small sliver of the bigger pie chart of personality types. So in other words, I think the INFJ personality type, that's the one I'm part of. It's something like 1 to 3% of the population is that. That stands for introvert, intuitive. So it's I for introvert, N for intuitive, F for feeling, J for judging. So it's one of 16 different basic personality types. And is a small percentage there. However, of the experiencers of the Mandela effect, it's a huge piece of the pie. Looks like about a quarter of the pie, and then the other huge subsection is an equally tiny sliver of the general populace, but it's an equally large chunk of the Mandela effect experiencers, and I would say also experiencers of synchronicity. So there's a similarity there. People that Dr. Bernard Beitman has studied for meaningful coincidences and synchronicity, he notices, because I've interviewed him on my podcast, Living the Quantum Dream, And he was talking about his book, Meaningful Coincidences, and he's a psychologist and he's published in Psychology Today and so forth. What's so interesting for me is he's done studies that showed that people who are seekers and they're aware that there's like a high, I would call it a higher level of conscious agency that they believe they're conversing with. They believe there's a dialogue going on. And right there, like boom, then synchronicities just go into hyperdrive. And to me, that is significant about the INFJs and then all the other intuitive feelers. Those are called empaths on the Myers-Briggs, and it's dovetails with what Dr. Bernard Beitman is noticing also, that these are people who have that special ability to meditate, to see themselves as if they're looking at a story, to see themselves as an actor, but also an observer at the same time. And that it's all it takes is just that split level of awareness to initiate these synchronicities and really, go into hyperspace with it. Like, okay, activate that timeline jump. We're going to be a lot more aware of it because we're constantly observing and then acting and going back and forth. And I think that personality type shares that ability, or both of those intuitive feelers.
Makes me think of something, and I can see Bill's face. I know the wheels are turning, that it really isn't just seeing something is different, but it's a whole body perception. Don't you think that builds a feeling state? Something's changed.
Well, yeah. Hey, yeah. And, one of the ones that was, I think, almost everybody I talked to was like, when I could still remember it, I was driving from San Francisco back to San Diego, and it was March 13th or something like that, around the COVID, the first, like, we're going to do a lockdown, and it's like on the radio, and my wife's calling me, God, lockdown. I'm like, what the heck alternate reality did I just step into? I mean, it was, and then everybody I talked to is like, the entire thing, it was almost like clearly obvious that we collectively like shifted into this weird alternate reality with many, many different facets to it. But I did have a question on something that, I had the good fortune to run into what I would call, no other good word for it, but a master. And the master long ago, told me, he said, things are going to speed up, Bill. Things are going to speed up and things are going to change very, very rapidly. And reality is going to become very malleable. And there's a bunch of things that went along with this, many, many things. One of them was secrets are going to come out, and I was like, the big secrets, like, actually the church is involved in this. Oh, the Boy Scouts are involved in, oh no, the financial, all these things that were being destabilized institutions. But my question to you, because you're studying this and you're intimately involved in it, has there been an acceleration in the quantity of Mandela effects that are showing up on a monthly basis?
I'd say it seems that way to me. It's hard to say because there's just so many of them. And I've been looking at so many. I tend to experience a lot of them to the degree that I once told a fellow physicist, another physicist, a third one, George Weissman, was asking me, tell Henry Stapp how often you notice these things. And I said, every day, And then Henry Stapp said something like a 4-letter word, not exactly a 4-letter word, but BS. So it's like, but that was my experience at the time, and it does seem like it's speeding up. But it's a good thing. I enjoy it. I feel, even if it seems at first like I don't like that particular shift. I didn't like the lockdowns at the time, and maybe that was like another reality. But due to a set of circumstances, I was one of the people feeling like that was a good thing. And I think you may think, really? And it's kind of in the big picture, humanity needs to know we don't want to go into lockdowns. And so to know that you don't want to go into them, you need to experience some of the the loss of, what is this loss of freedom to know that that's the wrong way? Mandates and lockdowns, that's the opposite of the sovereignty that we need to be seeking for our true, how good can it get future. So sometimes it's important to see, like we had a system failure where airports and hospitals and all sorts of systems went down. I come from an IT background. I worked in information technology at Citibank for a number of years. And so when this whole thing happened, I was upset. But then I realized, because it was avoidable, I realized what had happened. I thought, this is crazy that that happened. And I was feeling like, why did that happen? But then I started to see, oh, this is good. Because then people understand we don't want to put all of our eggs in one technology basket. And I think unless people experience that, they don't know what I already knew, like what a disaster. So sometimes it's like, if we step back, you can start to see like, oh, some of us needed to go through that to recognize, because we are manifesting from what we're thinking and feeling, we need to come together. And some of us are in different places. We don't yet know that we don't want one centralized computer AI running the entire planet. I know for sure that we don't want that. Absolutely, for sure. But some people, they haven't had an IT background. They don't know. They think, well, like, what could go wrong? I'd rather ask, how good can it get? And we've seen already enough to know we don't want to go that way. Let's work with AI and computers as friends. And I think I've rambled off from your original question. Sorry.
Oh, no, all of that was amazing. Let's take our next break. And when we come back, my book keeps falling open to a very particular page. So I will ask you about what's on that page. We'll be right back. Okay, and we're back with the amazing Cynthia Sue Larson. We're talking about her new book that is entitled The Mandela Effect and Its Society, Awakening from Me to We. My book keeps opening to a page with Philip K. Dick on it.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh.
Yes. Philip K. Dick experienced other realities. Tell us about that.
Oh my gosh, where to start? Well, I guess I'll start with his speech in Metz, France in 1970s. I think it was 73. And he gave a talk that is astonishing. Now that, if people don't know who Philip K. Dick is, you'll know him from movies like The Minority Report, and I think there's a series, Man in the High Castle. Lots of movies came out of his short stories and his visionary science fiction sorts of stories and books. And so when he gave a talk in 1973, he was saying, you may find this world bad, but you should see some of the others. That was the whole topic. And right there, I was like, what? It's exactly what we're talking about, funnily enough. It's like sometimes we think like lockdowns, mandates, what? Okay, like this seems bad, but again, he would be agreeing with us. I think in some way the book keeps falling open. Maybe it's Philip K. Dick himself saying, open it here.
Please.
That's hilarious. Yeah, thank you, Philip K. Dick. So the idea that he was presenting is that someday you might walk into your room and you switch on a light just using a regular motor movement that you do all the time, but the light isn't there. Somehow it's in a different location on the wall. Now, I see Liz nodding, and I've had that exact same experience. I describe it in my book, Reality Shifts, with the timer dial on my dryer, that I always would turn it the same way to run the load of clothes, and suddenly it doesn't work that way because it does, and then I have to stare at it. What is it doing? I have to read the directions on this same device I've been using for day after day, year after year. So anyway, Philip K. Dick is talking about that, and he's describing that there's this idea that we could be operating in sort of this orthogonal time space. So time in reality is not what it seems. And so he's brilliant at bringing that concept forth. He had also personally visualized some true nightmarish possible futures where, and he felt like it was imminent. Like it was really an adjacent reality where the Nazi kind of mentality could come in. He saw it as something that the Romans had originally initiated on the planet. And so he was watching that through the years, and he would see some concurrent possible realities, like The Man in the High Castle, that is now a series that you can watch. And it shows what would happen if, instead of the Allies winning World War II, what if the other side won? What if Germany won and the Nazis, came out ahead in that situation? which might seem unthinkable, but that's what he was presenting. And so I think it's brilliant. He was just such a genius and so ahead of his time, because very few people were thinking along these lines. But when he started writing about it, he said he did meet other people who would come to him and say, this has happened to me and there's nobody else I can talk to about it. And so that would be in the 1970s is when this talk came out. And I'm glad that he got that talk recorded, that he gave the talk. The presentation of what he originally intended to say and then what happened are two different things. So you've got the written record and then you've got the video, and they're both fascinating, well worth studying.
You've had that happen in one of your manuscripts. Tell everybody about that.
Yeah, I've had two of my books change. Most recently, it was Quantum Jumps because there was a section in the book. I placed it in two different places. Now it's nowhere to be found, describing what you see on looking at the cover of the book. And so I've got a picture in to show, the cover of that book is in the Mandela Effect in its Society, showing that basically it was intended to show that if you jump through something like a wormhole, then you can literally jump through space and time, because the many worlds of quantum physics is one and the same as the astronomical, multiverse. So it's like the micro and the macro come together. And you can do that through a wormhole. That was supposed to be in the book Quantum Jumps. So I know it was in there at least twice. And that happened several times with the current book. I'd write a paragraph in this current book and I'd have to rewrite it in one case like 5 times to get it to stick and stay in there. Quantum, geez.
Do you think there's a meaning to that? What was,
Yeah.
I mean, by the 5th time, I'd be like, okay, I think maybe this is not supposed to be in the book.
I'm very patient. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that maybe I can do a better job than I've previously. It's like at first, sure, I'm flustered. It's like, why isn't that still here? All right, I'll do it again. It's like you do the dishes and then there they all are again. Like, seriously, it feels a bit like that. So, like, I'll do it again, trying to have a good attitude. And I realized maybe what I'm doing is bringing realities together and I need it in all 5 realities or something. Like, okay, this for a good cause, apparently. So I'm doing someone else's dishes again or whatever. Good. The other book was Aura Advantage. And I used to have a passage in the book that would offend vegetarians. And they would write to me, like I'd get 6 emails a year, roughly. Like every couple months, there'd be another one. The emails stopped coming like 5 or 6 years ago. I'm not sure when, but no longer were the concerns about that I'd been talking with my salad, because I had there was a whole little paragraph in Aura Advantage that I was saying a prayer for my salad. And to me, it was like the indigenous saying blessings for the plants that you eat and the animals that you hunt. So it was along those lines, but it was deeply concerning to vegetarians. And I started coming to regret that I'd ever put that in there. And I think that just that feeling of, I'm so sorry I've caused so much trauma for people. Due to that, I'm pretty sure that now it no longer has any trace of that at all. None of my books do. I thought, well, maybe it popped into another book. No, it's gone.
Were they upset that there was a consciousness to plants?
Yeah, because some vegetarians, the reason they're vegetarian is they don't wish to cause harm to any sentient being. And so if you tell them that the plant kingdom is part of the animal kingdom, we're all cousins and there's sentience in the plant world. You can talk to your trees, they make music, they can control the locks on doors and so forth. That's not what they want to hear. It's disturbing.
Gosh, Bill, who's the guy with the plants and the...
Dr. Cleave Baxter. I mean, you've heard of him, and he used to work with he was one of the early pioneers with the polygraph, and
Yes.
I attached it to a plant, a house plant, and he was like, "Is something going on? Is that thing alive and conscious?" Well, nothing showed on the polygraph. And then he got the idea, I wonder if I actually burn the plant, if it would register. He goes over, gets his match, lights it. He's going to burn the plant, and the plant goes nuts. He hasn't burned the plant. The plant, it was conscious of that this is real. He's going to burn me, and it went nuts. And that began all the exploration of the consciousness of plants. So this is actually a scientifically verifiable thing. I love the Mythbusters. In the United States, we have a TV show called Mythbusters. And they try to, basically bust myths, but they actually even validated this. Everybody can do it. The interesting thing is that it's conscious intent. That if you're lying, like, oh, I'm going to burn the plant, but you're not really going to, it recognizes you're full of it.
Like, he's teasing. Yeah.
There's teasing me.
Even that in some ways feels like a Mandela effect, because to me, that feels like common knowledge now. I mean, my plants harass me when it's late enough in the spring for my houseplants to go outside. I mean, they're literally, there becomes a day I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Right? You take them out. I mean, so, that feels to me like a very common knowledge thing now, that really probably when you wrote that book would have been a thing that would have been outside of the realm of reality.
Right.
All right, you guys, we have just 4 minutes left. So we really want to encourage everybody to go to Amazon and buy Cynthia's new book and leave, please, a review. Let everybody know what you think of it and what was your favorite part. In my review, I put in everything that I love about this book, including being able to read it in these small chunks. It is comprehensive. There's the science in there, but it's super, super readable, which I really appreciate. So what else, Cynthia, do you want people to know? What do you want them to take away? What's another thing that's just really in your heart that you want people to be able to take home and digest from this book?
Well, pay attention, keep asking questions. And if you see things that don't look like they're in the right way, shape, or form yet, be aware that everything can change. And sometimes we see things that look like they're messed up, but that's because collectively we need to see that that's messed up. And then once we all can see it together, it can change for the better. And this is why I love to ask questions that I want to live the answer to, that I'm eager to live the answers to, like, how good can it get? So I do encourage people, if you've never asked that question before, start asking it today and wake up and ask that question. How good can today get? How good can I get? And you can even take it to how God can I get? How expanded, how much love, how much goodness can I become today? And it's transformative. So it's a great way to explore the world. And no matter what's happening, even if you think like this is a disastrous day, how dare I ask how good can I get? Do it anyway. Have that attitude. I guess I'd like to share that radical optimism that I'm feeling, and bring it to every situation. It's never inappropriate, and you could be surprised at some of the extraordinary changes, positive changes that can come, because we're very powerful. We are living in this time of manifestation. This is hyper novelty. Things are speeding up. Reality is extremely malleable. And the imagination state of the wave function, in our dreams and daydreams, can then become manifest in the particular or particle fashion that we choose. And by focusing on how good can it get, we're catching those favorite dreams and making them real for all of us.
So beautiful. All right, everybody. You can find out more about Cynthia at realityshifters.com, correct?
That's right.
And people can buy books there as well?
Yes, I'll ship them through the United States. The international postage has gotten prohibitive, but if they're insistent, then just send me an email and we can work it out.
Perfect. There, you also have a YouTube channel?
I do, and it's under my name, Cynthia Sue Larson. And also I'm affiliated with International Mandela Effect Conference on YouTube, and we have a website as well, imec.world. And our conference is in person this year, November 7th through the 10th in Nashville, Tennessee. Love to see you there, and I'm hoping to see you guys there for sure, in person.
Well, Bill and I will actually be presenting there, so we get to be a part of it this year. So if you've ever wanted to see Bill and I in person, this is a great way as well to come and introduce yourself to the Mandela Effect, to reality shifting, and to the whole IMEC team. We got to meet them the other day. They are fantastic as well. I mean, this event really sounds like it's going to be joyful and a whole lot of fun. Plus, I'm sure informative, because by November, a lot will have changed. Things are happening so fast now that by then I just can't wait to hear what will have happened and what's coming next. So thank you so much for being with us, Cynthia. We love you, as you know. We'll see you again really soon. Well, this book we could interview Cynthia 39 times for and never run out of content. Thanks for being here, Bill McKenna.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you in Nashville.
Yeah. Until next time, everyone, be safe and be well.
Love you guys. Bye-bye.